Welcome to Bible for Modern Minds podcast.
We're doing something a little different. We have a single source, but it's an incredibly intense one. It's a personal testimony, a full life story that works as this really profound case study in trauma, fame, and just radical change.
That's right. We're looking at the story of a man named Noel, and his trajectory is just, well, it's stunning. He goes from deep poverty, real spiritual chaos in the projects of North New Jersey, to becoming this huge viral sensation. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is turning down offers from major labels like OVO Sound.
Right. And then from that peak, an absolute collapse, a total personal revolution that cost him everything.
Everything.
So our mission today is to go beyond just telling the story. We really want to dissect the architecture and identity that's built on trauma. Why do millions of dollars just completely fail to fill that void left by childhood rejection?
Yeah, this deep dive is really about the ultimate cost of using external success, money, fame, connections, as a Band-Aid for internal wounds.
Yeah.
And we get to see the exact moment that whole scaffolding just comes crashing down.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even start? I guess at the beginning, right? The foundation in North New Jersey.
Right. And the environment he describes, it wasn't just poor. It was a hotbed of violence, drugs, and what he describes as a really pervasive spiritual darkness. He talks about gang activity, heavy drug use, and even seeing things he calls demons, hearing voices, starting at 5 or 6 years old.
And that all culminates in this one defining event at age 6. He was playing with matches.
In his mother's apartment in the projects, yeah. He tried to light a bed.
Yeah.
And he describes it with this very specific traumatic language. He says the fire was instant. It just blew up.
Wow.
He said he watched, kind of paralyzed as it spread, and it nearly killed his entire family.
Yeah, he describes trying to put it out, the windows blowing out, and then just standing outside watching the fire department, feeling like he was watching a bad movie, completely disconnected.
And the fallout from that is, it's just crucial to understanding his whole life. His 3 siblings, they get relocated to safer homes with family. But he gets left behind in the projects with his young, struggling mother.
That's immediate rejection.
Profound rejection. He felt singled out, watched, unwelcome. He's carrying this immense guilt, believing he's the reason his family's broken apart.
And on top of that, there's the abuse. He details watching men beat his mother and getting beaten himself.
Exactly. And then there's this really jarring story about visiting his father in prison. He's a kid, telling his dad what's happening at home. And he just watches his father, his one figure of strength, completely break down, crying, punching the glass.
I mean, that just has to compound that sense of helplessness, of loneliness.
It creates this massive internal deficit. And you see him spend the rest of his life trying to fill it, trying to get external acceptance, because internally, he feels worthless.
He couldn't even find a place to belong in his own neighborhood. He was bullied for being the only Spanish dude. So he starts fighting back. It's a reputation. But even when he tries to lean into that, go with the wrong crowd,
Yeah.
he can't fully do it.
There's this inner conflict, right? He talks about staying behind with a guy his friends beat up instead of running away. He felt this guilt, what he now calls conviction. And critically, he says he always got caught. He couldn't even succeed at being bad, which ironically kept him from fitting in there too.
But in all that chaos, there's this one little flicker of something else. An old man in the projects.
Yeah, a 90-year-old man who used to pray for the homeless. He prays for Noel, and he apparently just lit up and shouted, "This kid carries fire."
A spiritual deposit, he calls it.
A deposit that went dormant pretty quick.
Yep.
Because then high school hits, and with it, a massive wave of depression after his godmother passed away.
And he goes from being an athlete to just looking for a way to cope, which led to him smoking a lot of weed.
A lot. He said he was just lost, having trips. And at the same time, his life just accelerates at this impossible speed. He gets a girl pregnant his freshman year, moves out of his mom's house at 14, maybe 15.
And the loss just keeps compounding. He talks about an abortion around age 14 and only finding out later it was twins. He says the realization of that loss just broke him.
And then just a year or 2 later, the same girl is pregnant again. So now you've got a high schooler, maybe 16, with a daughter, Yolani, and then a son on the way. He's lost, depressed, working at Wendy's for $8 an hour.
It's an incredible amount of pressure. So it's no surprise that when an opportunity for validation comes along, he just grabs it with both hands.
Yeah.
The mic drop videos, that was his ticket.
Absolutely. He needed money, and these short viral videos just took off. I mean, overnight.
Yeah.
From 50 followers to 50,000, instant money, instant fame.
And this is the core of it, right? All that rejection, the bullying, the trauma, it all channeled into this desperate need for acceptance. So his entire identity, the whole sense of self, gets poured into his talent, into being famous.
But the fame didn't heal anything. It was just fuel on the fire. His weed addiction got worse. He was in clubs with lots of women, which he now says was just this manipulative search for what he calls fake love.
Yeah, he lists his main struggles as pornography, sex, and weed. Says he literally could not sleep at night without them. The external success was just making the internal emptiness worse.
And this wasn't just local fame. We're talking major labels. He mentions OVO Sound trying to work with them, turning down Drake directly. Because he had this innate need to maintain control. He never signed a deal.
Which is fascinating. He's seeking total external control, but his internal life is completely out of control. It's like a direct response to that powerlessness he felt as a kid.
That's a great point. And it's the central paradox. He has the money, the connections, the freedom, everything people wish for. And he was more depressed, more lonely, more empty than when he was in the projects. He felt like an imposter.
But the path to changing all that actually started before the fame really hit, back when he was still at Wendy's.
This is the turning point. He's outside smoking one night, and two guys, Philip and Joel, come up to him. And they ask him this question that just cuts through everything. If you were to die right now, are you going to heaven or hell?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right, because even though he was high, he said it resonated with this deep spiritual questioning he'd had his whole life. It was the first time he'd ever really heard the gospel, the message of salvation. It gave him hope.
So he goes to church, responds to an altar call, but he's not ready to surrender.
Not at all. He wasn't ready to give up the weed, the sex, the porn. Those were his coping mechanisms. So he gets what he calls pride and rebellion. And he makes this very calculated choice to find any excuse to leave the church.
So he could go back to his old life without feeling the conviction.
Exactly. He finds this small theological point about tithing, about giving money, and he uses that as his intellectual excuse to walk away. And immediately after he leaves, his platform explodes. It was the perfect cover.
But the sin he was hiding just escalated into this catastrophic mess. He's involved with multiple women, but he still has this deep connection, a soul tie, he calls it, with his first kid's mother.
Right. And for anyone who doesn't know that term, he means this powerful, emotional, spiritual tie that lingers. And this chaos leads to the ultimate crisis. He gets two different women pregnant at the exact same time.
One in New York and his first kid's mom.
And the consequences hit almost immediately. During the birth, his baby mama's placenta ruptures.
The baby's born brain dead.
He describes watching the doctors trying to save her, seeing his own daughter dead right in front of him. In that moment, the fame, the money, the control, it all just vanished.
And in that hospital room, he just prays, God, please, bring my daughter back to life.
And they get a pulse, which for him was this moment of just painful mercy.
But the baby survived with severe brain damage. He's completely overwhelmed by guilt, by shame, and the situation leads him straight to suicidal thoughts. He's on a mountain, thinking about ending it all.
The family eventually makes that impossible decision to pull the plug. He describes seeing her in the casket, sitting outside the funeral home for an hour, just holding a rose. That grief was the final blow. It shattered everything. He knew he needed radical change.
And the breaking point comes while he's driving to a video shoot in New York, the very thing that gave him his fame.
Yeah, he has a complete breakdown in his car. He's crying out, God, if you real, save me. I'm depressed. I hate this. He records it, posts it online. And he says in that moment, this overwhelming peace came over him, and the depression just lifted instantly.
So the change was absolute. He seeks out a community, a church in Connecticut that he says specialized in deep healing.
Apostolic, prophetic, heavy on what they call warfare and deliverance. He felt he needed that structured approach to deal with the anxiety and panic attacks from his childhood.
And the cost of that obedience was everything. In 3 months, he gives up his entire career, turns down million-dollar deals, and this part of the story is wild.
It is. He says he believes God literally deleted the whole YouTube platform. All his content, gone. He's at financial zero, clients demanding refunds. But he says, despite losing everything, he was the happiest he'd ever been.
It was a necessary amputation.
Totally. He spends the next year in discipleship, just focused on character. The main lesson, contentment. Learning to be happy if a video got one view, as long as it touched that one person.
And he had to physically move. God told him to go to Connecticut permanently.
He did it on faith. He was sleeping in his car, fasting for 7 days, until the church community found him and gave him a free apartment for a year. He had to get away from the old environment to break the old patterns.
And at first, his family back in Jersey, they didn't get it. They thought he was crazy, mad, religion.
Well, their old connections were based on lust or money. He had to rebuild it all on love and relationship, not rules. And after a year, they saw he was sincere. One of his kids' mothers converted. His own mom started going to church.
And it even reached his dad in prison. He finds out his father was practicing ancient African witchcraft, the very things the son was now fighting against.
And he convinces his dad, over FaceTime, to throw up the physical altar. And now his father is going to church, too. It's a total generational reversal.
So what does this all mean?
I mean, it's a perfect case study of the search for identity. When you try to find your purpose in temporary things, fame, money, sex, it just can't heal trauma. It will always lead to a bigger void and a bigger crisis. His conclusion, after hitting the highest highs and lowest lows, is that only that radical internal change could be the antidote.
He leaves us with a pretty stark warning. The pleasure of sin is momentary, but the consequences are huge. He's urging you, the listener, to find that change before a crisis forces your hand.
And if we bring it back to that one key psychological moment, remember when he left the church, he used a small, complex theological argument about tithing as his justification to walk away from accountability.
Which brings up a really powerful question for all of us for you to think about. When you find yourself rejecting accountability in your job, in your relationships, anywhere, are you really motivated by principle? Or are you using complicated ideas as a shield to justify behaviors you're just not ready to give up?
It's a profound lesson in self-honesty, and it applies everywhere.
That is definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.